All right, I just wanted to leave a quick note about the Luigi Mangione suppression hearings is how I'm calling them. Basically, there's 3 days, I think, scheduled, maybe more, potentially going to the whole week if they need it, going to talk about the evidence against Luigi Mangione in the case of the state case against Luigi Mangione. Now, they are ruling on the issue about the admissibility of certain evidence. And in court today, in the state of New York, they had day one of those proceedings. It didn't go terribly great for Luigi Mangione. It also didn't go terribly bad for Luigi Mangione, but the fireworks haven't really begun. I thought I'd give you some quick details based on what I saw from the text messages, the tweets for those who are inside the courthouse. Two different people, I compared their tweets to kind of get a general idea. Also, I know somebody who was watching the stream inside the courthouse, and they gave me their thoughts as well. So putting that all together, I thought I'd make a quick note for members only, not something ready to go for the full public, on what my thoughts were about what's happening in that courtroom today. Now, first of all, I saw that Karen Agnifilo arrived in court with her husband, Mark Agnifilo, and with Thomas Dickey being the attorney in Pennsylvania. Now, I had said for the longest time, Pennsylvania is dragging their heels and doesn't want to rule on the arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where Luigi Mangione was originally arrested. Why am I slurring all my words like I'm a drunk toddler? I don't know. But anyways, the point being is that Thomas Dickey showed up in New York with Karen Agnifilo as part of that team. Now, I find that super interesting because, again, Pennsylvania doesn't want any part of ruling on that arrest, which was illegal in Pennsylvania. And they're going to basically, in my opinion, take kind of the cowardly route and let New York rule on an arrest in Pennsylvania and about the legality of the arrest in Pennsylvania, even though they're in New York, which I find is super weird. But Thomas Dickey is in the courtroom for that. So that's a really good sign that that's happening, in my opinion, for Luigi Mangione's defense. Now, again, for those who don't know my position, I'm not rooting for a killer to get away with it. So if Luigi Mangione did do the shooting, I'm not saying I want him to get away with it scot-free, necessarily. Now, having said that, where's the caveat coming? The caveat is that I believe that we are a nation of laws, and if you're going to prosecute somebody by the law, you should actually follow the law. So they've already violated Luigi Mangione's constitutional rights 5 ways already, maybe 6 different ways, and I pointed that out several times. That arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania was 100% illegal, and they want to use data that were or items that were seized during that illegal arrest and search and seizure in Altoona, Pennsylvania against Luigi Mangione. That is against the law, in my opinion, and I hope that Judge Caro will rule such. However, Judge Caro doesn't seem to be on the great path to do so. He seems to already be annoyed by the defense. They have a rock star defense team for Luigi Mangione. He already seems annoyed by them. So let me give you a few thoughts on what's happening in that case. We won't talk about all the reasons why I think that was an illegal arrest, because that's for other videos I've done. I've done multiple videos talking why it's a legal arrest. But here's what happened today. Basically, it sums down to this. The prosecution, the district attorney, was bringing on 2 guards who watched over Luigi Mangione when he was being detained. And they basically testified before the judge that Luigi Mangione talked to them freely of his own volition, if you will, not under duress and not being coerced and not while they were working for law enforcement, just had a conversation with them in the jail in which he admitted that he had a 3D printed ghost gun on him when he was arrested, and that he had grievances or problems with the healthcare system, and they talked about the healthcare system. And he also talked about the differences between third world countries and our country, and several other things. Here's where I think that they're trying to go with this. The logic and the strategy behind this positioning of the district attorney, in my opinion, and I haven't run this by my lawyer friends yet, so I'm going early with you on this information, is that they are trying to establish that if that information gets tossed out. In other words, if it was an illegal arrest, like I said it was, then they don't have the actual 3D printed gun that they can show a jury. They can't say that they have it. They won't have the confession letter that they said was in his backpack, because that will be tossed out. They won't have the notebook in which he outlines his complaints against the healthcare system, because that would be tossed out. All of that stuff would be considered fruit of the poisonous tree. On the stand, they got basically guards to say that Luigi admitted to having those things. I had not a confession letter per se, but he's like, I had a 3D printed gun on me. I do have problems with the healthcare system. Oh, by the way, I did have foreign currency on me and a fake passport, which led some people to think that I was maybe some kind of government actor or spy or something like that. Those comments are being laid out by the prosecution, in my opinion, so that if they lose the actual gun and the actual notebook and the actual confession letter and the actual passport and actual money, they'll be able to say, okay, I can't bring that into a court of law, but what I can do is I can bring these guards into the court of law and say these guards heard Luigi Mangione saying he had these things in his possession. So it'll be the next best thing. That's the strategy I think they're using right now, is that the prosecution is doubling down on the possibility that Judge Caro will rule that that was an illegal arrest, and therefore all the things obtained from Luigi Mangione, including a potential murder weapon, if that was the murder weapon, a confession letter, a notebook, false identification, false passport, and foreign currency suggesting he was going to flee the country. All of that, if that gets tossed, which in my opinion it should, because it was an illegal arrest and an illegal search and seizure. So if the judge rules properly, the prosecution is doubling down by saying, doesn't matter. We've got people who say Luigi admitted to having those things. So while we might not be able to tell you we have it and show it to a jury, we can at least tell you, people will go on the record as saying, yeah, Luigi told me that he had a ghost gun and that he had problems with the health insurance. So that's what it is. That's what the strategy was on day one, in my opinion. Laying down the foundation that if we lose, that's what the prosecution's doing. If we lose, because you rule that this was an illegal arrest, which, by the way, I think that means that they know that's a real strong possibility that it will be ruled it was an illegal arrest. They're doubling down by saying, well, we've got witnesses that say Luigi admitted to having all those things, so it will use their testimony in court. So that's what I think is going to happen. Now let's see what happens on day 2, day 3. On day 2 and 3, hopefully we're going to find the argument from the defense on why that was an illegal arrest. Hopefully we will see the judge soon rule on whether or not it was an illegal arrest. I don't expect the judge to rule on it from the bench. I think he'll issue a written report after he thinks about it for a while. So I would expect that we're going to have a couple days of testimony where they lay out their best argument why it was an illegal arrest. There'll be some silence. A week maybe would go by, and then finally Judge Caro, after a week or two, will rule on whether or not the information is admissible in court. And when he does that, he will issue a whole bunch of formal reasoning why he decided to rule that way. So he'll take some time to do that. So that's my thinking. We're going to just hear arguments for 2 or 3 days. I think what's coming up next is probably going to be the bigger stuff, which is where the defense is going to lay out why it was an illegal arrest. And again, the prosecution's laying down, well, even if we lose that the arrest was legal, we've got people who say he admitted to it, so that's going to be good enough. So that's my update. Thanks for listening. Hope you're watching this trial. I'll let you know what I think about day 2's proceedings as soon as they get done. Thanks.